Bonjour, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to V with Mike G, the show of life, the show of early 1990s Austin blues guitar playing, the show of playing shows 6 nights a week and having all of the time in the world to live your life like a playboy. And that playboy today is my wonderful guest, John Garrett. Met John a few years ago now. He's one of the first people I ever talked to in the distribution tier of the Texas liquor industry. He's insightful, he's funny, he's way laid back, has a radio voice, and if nothing else, John has been incredibly influential in shaping the cocktail culture in Texas, but also bringing into Texas many of the wonderful tools, whether it's a Mezcal, whether it's a Vermouth, but many of the wonderful tools that lots of us use every day. So this is a great one for me. I'm glad John came down to Austin just to chat with me. We sipped some rum, some Panamanian rum. It's quite lovely. But I hope you enjoy my conversation with John Garrett.
Well, I do remember hating singing because it's so uncomfortable.
It's incredibly uncomfortable.
This isn't natural.
No, it's not. And what you're saying being totally circulated through your own earphones too.
Yeah.
In this case, with no music either, so it's just like pure vocal John Garrett, raw. Right.
I don't want to go back and sing ever again.
Wait, so all I know of what maybe existed of a musical career for you is a picture of you and a Strat. Was it a Strat or a Telly? I think it was a Strat. And you had like long kind of hair. Well, not long, but like real slicked back hair. Looked like you should be in the Thunderbirds or something.
I definitely had super long sideburns all the way down to like some lamb chops.
Some chops.
Which I think my mom probably was just like, come on. And my hair has only always done one thing, which is just go back.
Really?
And now it's just falling out. So it's
not
just
so
going
bad.
back and falling out.
But it had to have fared well for you in the 80s. Because that slick back hair, that's the Michael Douglas, Gordon Gekko thing.
It was, growing up in Dallas, Texas, it was cowboy boots. Yeah. And then, with the music I was into, it was, a wife beater and
right.
And fucked up cowboy boots. And it was all about Tellys and Stratocasters. So
pure rock goodness. So when you talk about like the music that you're into, because it's funny. It's like, yeah, we both like Mezcal, but that never translates.
Yeah.
So guys that drink Jaeger, I'm pretty sure they listen to Slayer. That's like easy to come by, right? But like, I have no idea what kind of music you're into.
These days, none. Right. But which is a little unfortunate. But I grew up. So growing up in Dallas, my dad had an office off Harry Hines, which is a pretty seedy
very
street.
Seedy.
And let me tell you, back in my day, when I was younger, it was super seedy.
Even worse. But in his business, all he needed was an office and a landline, and back then probably a fax machine. And it just happened to be that his office was right above Charlie's Guitar Shop. Oh, cool!
Which is a legendary place. If you've seen pictures of Jimmy Vaughn or Stevie Ray Vaughan,
right? Always in there, right?
Always have those Charlie's Guitar Shop.
Gotcha.
T-shirts on so a guy named Mark Pollock owned it, and he just passed away last week, unfortunately. But
were you guys? Did you know him? Because he probably frequented a lot, right?
He sold me my first guitars
kidding.
All that, and so anyways. Sometimes I'd be at my dad's office, for hours on end if my mom had something to do when I was younger, and I'd go downstairs and I'd see like limousines pull up and like Clapton would get out.
Oh shit!
Or
Are you
Jimmy
kidding
Vaughn
me?
would get out, or I saw Slash get out, and
No
like all these
shit! Wow.
all these guys. So, but the real deal that was going on there and the sound in Dallas at the time was blues.
Yeah.
And so I got really into a lot of blues, and that's all I did until for over a decade.
When did you start? How old were you when you started playing guitar?
I don't even know.
Teenager, young teenager,
8th grade or something. I got some shit guitar for like $20.
Harmonies.
It was like a Mako. I don't even know what that is, but it looked like a Stratocaster. And
yeah,
my parents were cool. They got me guitar lessons, and they dragged me there once a week, and I kind of learned how to play. And then, I did what you had to do. You had to practice. You had to stay home. And I spent a lot of time practicing. And
did you spend thinking about, because I think about this when I was like, I was in my basement playing guitar, because that's how fucking was. I was in my basement. Yeah. When I moved around a little bit, so I don't have like a lot of friends, but was that what Friday night was like for you? Where it's like, actually, I'd rather just stay home and play guitar.
It got to the point, I was pretty social going out and with friends and stuff, but it got to the point where I couldn't wait to go back.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed, I think I enjoy the process of like suffering a little bit. I love the hard work.
Right.
Like that.
You're willing to put the time in.
I'm willing to put the time in because none of it came natural. Yeah. I really don't have any natural talents.
Did your dad play or mom play?
Nobody.
So you just saw the people walking out of the guitar store like, that works for me.
That works for me. And in listening to music, my dad always played, either country or blues.
Yeah.
And in the scene in Dallas at that time was.
Can you give me like kind of what years are we talking?
So I don't know.
What, late 80s or
late 80s?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, late 80s, and it was all about Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimmy Vaughan and the Thunderbirds, and all that stuff was like heavy, right? And then you had the guys here in Austin like Doyle Bramhall and all those guys, and it was a heavy sound. It was a sound that like was, for a Texas guy, was pretty great. Yeah. And so I got real into that, and of course I wasn't really playing that kind of music. I was listening to it and practicing.
You were trying to play. Yeah.
And then like in high school and stuff, I was in really bad bands, and we'd play like the Battle of the Bands at high school.
We've all been there, John. Yeah.
And stuff like that. But it gave you that taste of like being on stage. And dealing with those nerves of like, we have a show coming up, and like, it didn't matter how bad we were in high school. It was a huge experience.
Yeah.
And once you tasted that,
you can't get enough of it.
The next morning you're on cloud 9. You're like, when are we doing that again?
Right.
And so you what did you do to get that feeling again? You had to go practice.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I guess it's like drugs. It's like, wow, that feels good. How do I do that again? Well, you got to go get more.
Right.
And so the only way to get more and get back on stage was get the songs right and get another gig. So
were you playing covers, or were you doing originals?
No, I never played in any situation where we played covers.
Oh, that's killer.
Unless it was a band that like, hey, let's do this song for fun and our own way or something. So we were writing songs, in high school and early high school and stuff. And
did that become like, how did the girl thing factor in? Because like for me, being an awkward, some semi-social dude who played guitar but wore big jeans, it never like worked out for me. Like no matter what band I played in, despite what people think, like never was it about the girls, because it never worked for me.
Yeah, I don't think like girls are into like musicians who are.
You're playing Fuel.
You're good, or you've gotten somewhere. Like, they didn't really care about us jamming and in like my friend's parents' upstairs bedroom.
Right.
That wasn't sexy at the time. But it did have some mystique, and it definitely got you somewhere. On Friday nights.
Somewhere, love it.
Somewhere. Yeah. So there's something to it.
So did you pursue it once you got out of high school? Because I presume you went to high school. You grew up in Dallas proper, like the whole time?
I grew up in Dallas. Had a great childhood. My dad worked his ass off, and my mom raised us at home and provided a good home. And I had a genuinely fantastic childhood.
That's crazy. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's
almost
great.
atypical sometimes, because you're people like broken homes, divorces and stuff.
Your parents have their ups and downs and stuff, and that's life. And now that I'm at this age, I get it, and that's normal. But my dad provided us looking back, I think about like now that I have kids, I think like those are the things like I understand what he was up to back then.
Right. But probably not then, but now you're totally clear,
now I'm
right?
super clear on what he was up to. He was getting me out to his hunting lease to go hunting on the weekends.
Yeah.
We had or go to the lake or something, and he was keeping me out of trouble.
Yeah,
is what he was doing. And
that's great.
And so that's how but it provided me an extremely freedom-filled lifestyle when I was a kid. Like, and I grew up in a neighborhood where I think we maybe all did it back in the day. It was very freeing. I mean, I could leave at 8 a.m. on my BMX bike and come back at sundown, and nobody had a problem with it.
Like, cool, you're home, good deal.
Yeah, and so that so I feel lucky to live in that time.
Is it like, so I talk to parents often. I'm personally I'm not a parent, but I grew up in the same thing. Was exploring, discovering, showed up at sundown, rode my bike to work, rode my bike to school. Is it different now with your kids? Like if they wanted to live that kind of like adventurous,
they're not.
You couldn't do it, right?
My eyesight. But me and my wife talk all the time about like how do we provide that,
right?
And it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard. And
why is it different? Because if you look at the numbers and stuff in terms of like, got to get dark for a second, but in terms of kidnappings and murders and stuff, it's not really changed that much.
No,
we've changed.
We've changed. This society. We know more, we see more, and there's too much. I guess just media about things.
Yeah.
And so we're just living in a little bit of harder thought process world.
Too much info. Almost.
Too much info.
We don't have the benefit of ignorance.
Like I didn't know if anything happened 2 miles from my house when I was 15, 10 or 15 years old. Like you had to wait to hear about it.
Sure.
And so anyways, I grew up in Dallas, had a great childhood, went to high school, got real into music, and thought I was going to be heading up to Colorado. I was super into snow skiing.
Oh, no kidding.
And I was like, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to try to get good at skiing and try to race and things like that.
Is this after high school? Like
Just
when you get out?
During high school.
Oh, really? Okay.
And
had you ever been up there ever?
Yeah, I spent. Dude, Texans, like, if there was a 3-day weekend, I drove to Colorado to go skiing.
Cool.
I just went there constantly.
And you were a skier, not a snowboarder.
Skier, yeah. Well, they didn't really think they had snowboards
Probably
back then.
not,
really.
yeah.
And I got coaxed in by some other friends to go to college at Texas Tech.
Why the
Which was so fucking bizarre for me. And I don't know why, but I agreed. I said, okay.
But just because friends of yours were going up there, that made it make some sense?
It was like a really bizarre, I don't know what like I was going through at that time in my life or what, but like one way or the other, I made the decision to not go. I was going to go to Gunnison, go to college in Crested Butte and be a ski bum. And next thing I know, I'm driving my truck out to Lubbock.
Oh.
And I got there and was unhappy instantly. I think I was there. I don't even think I was there a year. I called my parents and said, I'm going to breeze through Dallas on my way to Austin.
Yeah.
And I'm not going back to school.
Oh, shit. So you were done first year.
I was done. I didn't even go, let's be honest. I got to Lubbock, and that's about what happened.
That was what it was like. I got classes scheduled, but I can't even make it.
So I sat in my dorm room and practiced my guitar. And there's only bad things to do in Lubbock. I mean, because there's nothing to do. So
be like prejudiced, go to class, punch a guy.
Drink this, take this, and, there's some fields out there if you freak out.
Right.
And so it was not not the greatest, 8 months or a year of my life.
Were you even like stoked on going to college in the first place?
No.
So you just like they kind of coaxed you, some friends coaxed you to go to Lubbock.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, I think like having a nice upbringing, I kind of felt like it was the right thing to do for my parents.
Yeah, because you have some moral sanity. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty, I feel like I'm a halfway thoughtful guy. And I'm like, my parents provided me with this, the least I can do. I mean, they're offering to pay for me to go to college.
Yeah,
like,
I should humor the idea at
maybe
least,
I should go humor this. But I was never an academic, and I never was really into school and stuff. And so I humored it for a little while.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
That was it. And so you said you trekked your way up to Austin?
Well, I just was like, if I'm going to get serious about music,
no better place.
right? I'm not going to New York or LA or something like that. So went home, told my parents, and I just said, hey, I'm going to book it down to Austin and see what happens.
What'd they say?
I don't know. They didn't say much. I think my mom,
which is the worst sometimes, right?
It's the worst, man. I think my mom teared up a little bit. My dad was just like, look at your mom crying.
Which, it's funny because that's the way of like not having to say how you feel. It's like, but look at them. They're so sad. Like, look at that.
It's the worst.
It is terrible, yeah. But it didn't stop you, imagine.
It didn't stop me. And, and they ultimately, at the end of the day, they were cool about it. But they helped me out. I mean, they were really cool. They helped me out. I got a little apartment close to campus so that I didn't over by UT a little bit, and just started practicing more because I had some free time.
Yeah.
And I started getting better, and
to a point where like, oh man, I might be a formidable guitar player.
Well, I got to the point where I was like, maybe I should go down to some of these blues jams that they have, like these open sit-in type situations where like on Sunday night there's a house band and you could bring your guitar and like you could pop up for 2 or 3 songs and do some standards. And, you could either sing or you could sit in on the guitar or whatever. And there's a bunch of guys in the audience that all came in. It was just a jam session.
That's cool, right? Though. Do you remember any of the spots you played back then? And when was this? I'm thinking like what?
It's like 92, 93, 94.
Yeah, it's a totally different deal then. But I bet some of the same places are still around.
Yeah, I mean, back then, the original Antone's was over on Guadalupe still. Behind Ruby's Barbecue.
Yeah.
That's still there.
Oh, cool.
And, there's like all these little crummy blues bars like Joe's Generic Bar and the Black Cat was there and stuff like that.
Black Cat, oh yeah.
And so I was just went in one night, had like 17 beers and was like trying to get up the nerve to be like, put my name on the list.
Right,
and
right.
They call your name and you got to get up there, and there's people in the audience that are good,
Right.
And I hopped up there and played a few standards with the band and was like, got home kind of freaked out, and then I was like, I'm going back. And so
addicted, like you said, man, it's the drug, right? You have to get back up on stage.
And so started going back kind of week after week at these different blues jams, and then started meeting some guys around town.
Yeah.
And ended up getting in with a group of guys, and ended up, I just did that slog of, I played 6 nights a week.
Holy shit, are you kidding me?
At on 6th Street, playing blues. 3 sets a night from like 7 to 1:30 in the morning.
Wow. For
like, $25 and all the beer you can drink.
Right.
And I did that for like 2 years solid.
No kidding. And were you playing lead too, or just rhythm, or both?
Both. I mean, it was just, it depended. I mean, the bands that I was playing with, like if there was one guitar, you were everything, and if there was 2, you swapped out leads.
Very.
And we were in, going back to covers. I mean, that's back in the day where you played standards.
Yeah.
You played all the old blues classics, and that's where I really cut my teeth and had some great nights and got my ass kicked some nights.
Yeah.
And
what were you up to during the days? Were you working, or were you?
No, I was making enough to pay for this really shitty apartment and live like, you get home, you sleep, you wake up at noon, you like go downstairs and have a slice of pizza and a Coke for like,
right.
$3, by then it's 4 o'clock, and after you've practiced a little bit, or got high or whatever you're gonna do,
right.
And then you're like, we got to go load in, and then you go load in at the club, and inevitably you've got a few hours to kill, and you're just on 6th Street, so you end up having a couple of beers. It's just like this long, monotonous lifestyle, just day after day. But I mean, most people aren't playing 5 or 6 nights a week.
Yeah, that's like fully into it. Yeah.
So that was all I had time to do, was sleep and make the gig, kind of.
Yeah.
So
did it tire you out at all after
exhausted,
time?
But I was stoked. It was like all I had been asking for.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was not glamorous.
But it doesn't matter. You get beer. You get to eat pizza. You get to sleep till fucking noon, and then you get to go play shows 6 nights out of the week, which is an amazing.
It was a little bit of a nice feel, because Austin being in 6th Street at the time, being such a tourist trap, you always had a crowd.
Yeah,
and they always wanted to go hear blues because they're in Austin.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, you have, every night you had somewhat of a decent crowd.
That's amazing.
So
different now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, super different. And then, on nights I was off, I'd go, I moved into this little house with a friend of mine, and we were like 2 blocks from the original Antones, and that's when I would go and watch, those greats from around town, and just like sit in awe and watch those guys, and that's where the real lessons started.
Yeah.
And,
did you get into a lot of trouble? Like, I think about how I would have been if I could just play every night and then eat pizza during the day. Like, is there a trail of dead of ex John Garrett women, if you will, right?
No. I mean,
was it more about the music?
Yeah, I was super into the music.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, I just was like engulfed in. If my guitar wasn't in my hand, I was listening, and it was just that.
Totally a student.
Totally a student and I just engulfed myself in it, and that ran its course, and I got tired, and didn't see that kind of like life getting anywhere, and
you didn't, because what's the next step if you think about it, right? Like, well, maybe I'll get a record deal, right? But Austin's hard because it's not LA, it's not New York. So did you just see like your prospects were pretty limited at that point?
Yeah, it was a little limited, and I felt like I should go back to school, and I thought I should go to music school. I had like a friend that went to like Berkeley College of Music in Boston, and I was like, maybe I should take some like music classes at like ACC or something.
Right.
And so I told my parents, I was like, I'm gonna sign up for some classes, and they were like, this is fantastic.
They were just so glad you would go veer back onto the path of academia.
Like, yeah, they're like guitar classes, and stuff, and so, but I went, and I got super frustrated because like the teacher would be like, no, you're doing this wrong, and I'm like, motherfucker, I'm playing every night.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong, teaching, man.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I was young and just a dick, and got all jaded, and then bailed, and just got kind of burnt out in Austin a little bit, and a lot of my friends were literally burnouts.
No kidding.
Like they just like, it's like, dude, you can't just sit around and smoke weed all day.
Yeah.
Like nobody was getting anything accomplished, and I've always had this sense of like, I'm pretty driven.
Yeah, ambitious for sure.
Pretty ambitious, and so I was like, I got to get around some people who are doing stuff.
Right.
And
get inspired.
Get inspired, or just people who are motivated.
Yeah.
And I kept going back to Dallas to see my family and stuff, and I'd go hang out on the weekend or something, and noticed that I was like, wow, people are busy here, and they're like motivated, and I was like, maybe I'll come back up here.
How was the vibe then? It was totally different.
Totally different. Dallas.
Big business, small artisan kind of creative culture.
And the music scene was not Austin for sure.
Oh yeah.
And but I had some friends there, and they were like, hey, let's start working on some music. Come back up here. So moved back up to Dallas, and
when was that?
That was probably like 95.
Oh really? So you spent like 3 years or so in Austin?
I think maybe it was late. You know what? It's probably like 97. I think I was in Austin for like 5 years.
Really? Do it just like the whole time, just immersing yourself in guitar playing.
100% just playing music.
That's killer. That's crazy. And so, do you ever think like UT just being around the corner? Did it ever really entice you to go back? Fuck it, no, I'm done.
I was just like, why am I even living next to this? Why am I even living next to this campus? Like, this is where students should live, not stoner musicians who are coming home at 4 a.m. Like, it just didn't make any sense. The girls were super hot.
Sure.
And that was a lot of,
that's
that
a benefit
fun.
Of living down on campus. I think that's why one of my friends still in his 30s lives down on campus.
Yeah. And it's funny, I didn't move. I lived in a few different places in Austin, but they all seem to be pretty close to that. And anyways, just I ran its course.
But you're like, gotta have some more momentum. Austin, I did that. I need to get up to Dallas again. Good friends. Seems like there's lots of money transacting, and
there's some like the economy is good. There's people moving around. Some friends that are musicians up there, and maybe it was time to like just get out of the mundane 6 nights a week blues gig type thing, and see what else is out there. And so I can't even remember what happened when I got back exactly, but kept playing, had some odd jobs, like part-time little crummy jobs just to like support myself, and had a little apartment and stuff, and ended up falling in just kind of as a hired gun with a few different bands around town.
Is that rhythm guitar player, or are we doing lead then?
Both.
Whatever it took.
And a couple of them would go on the road for here and there, so I'd be gone some, and then I started getting into a little bit more, I wouldn't say country music, but started kind of getting back to like the roots of like what my dad used to play for me and stuff.
Like who am I thinking? The guy like Hank Williams, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but I kind of the more modern style of like you hear like Steve Earle, and things that have like country roots to it, but still kind of
gritty.
And fell in with this guy named Houston Marchman, who's kind of a Texas country guy. Mm-hmm. Started playing with him, and we were kind of gone all the time. So
just touring around.
Yeah, touring around. And
did you how far out did you make it when you were touring?
Not too far. I mean, we go to Nashville a lot, through the South a little bit, but mainly those Texas. That was the time the Texas music scene like was taking off like a fucking rocket.
Right.
And you could make a pretty actually good living never leaving Texas.
Really? Because it's its own economy.
Yeah, I mean, really like like you like hop in the van Wednesday morning and you had a gig like, you got to remind yourself this is like kind of twangy country music, kind of twangy rock music, and there's the clubs. You don't even understand how many like dance halls are out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. That like 600 people will come on a Wednesday.
That's all they got to do.
That's all they have to do. And these are beautiful, like historical dance halls.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you'd like have these like epic shows on like a Wednesday night. And so you might play like Green Hall Wednesday night and then Thursday night in Austin, and then Friday night in San Antonio, and Saturday night in Corpus. And then you're home Sunday, and everybody worked, little odd jobs like, Monday, Tuesday, and just to make a couple of bucks, and then we leave again on Wednesday. And I
get these like massive gigs. It sounds like,
and these festivals in Texas, like these. I know it sounds like really silly, but like the Luling Watermelon Festival and stuff.
Dude,
there's thousands of fucking people.
I played that in 2004.
Yeah,
and it's amazing the participation.
Yeah, and I didn't really listen to a lot of these guys that much. They're kind of like a little bit fratty for me, but like that's where those huge names at the time, like Pat Green and all those guys, that's where they cut their teeth and they made serious bucks to get out there and do other things. And when you have a fucking tour bus and you haven't left Texas yet,
and you can like manage a tour, I totally get what you're saying.
The economy's good, and people are coming to your shows.
Yeah, because you're talking like Texas has massive economy. You talk about Houston, huge powerhouse economy. Dallas. It's like New York and I mean, you have these huge towns. So I think a lot of people don't ever think about that. And we'll talk about spirits in a second, but Texas can absolutely drive its own economy. It could it could secede. It'd be stupid, but it could from an economic perspective, right? Like there's so many big cities.
It was crazy. So that was I did that for a while, and kind of got done with that, and realized that if I was ever going to do anything outside of being a hired gun type situation, so I came back, started writing songs, realized that in order for me to like do what I wanted to do, I had to figure out how to sing.
Yeah.
Which I was never a naturally good singer.
But out of necessity, you learned how, right?
I had to do it.
Yeah.
And put a couple different bands together and made a few albums and a few EPs and toured around.
What was it called? The albums that because it was you were singing, you were writing vocals.
I did a couple of albums. One I came back down to Austin that was kind of more of like a honky tonk type album.
Yeah.
It was just under my name. And then I started a band called Tweed.
Okay.
And we were.
Why does that sound familiar? Should it sound familiar?
I don't know. We played a bunch of shows.
Is it a false positive, John? Am I just like here?
I don't know. Were we huge and I didn't know it?
Yeah, maybe so.
But we got lucky. We'd come down here and play Steamboat and some good gigs. We got in with some good booking guys, and so we did fairly well for just being some guys trying to keep it going.
And you were at that point though, you weren't the hired gun anymore. It was your vision, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it was my songs and the whole deal.
Was it more rewarding doing it that way?
Totally, dude.
Yeah.
Totally. And I mean, it wasn't as easy. I mean,
no, it's
being a hired
on
gun,
you.
Walking on stage with a couple of long necks and sitting on top of your Marshall and just, screaming out leads all night is pretty easy.
You can just put your head down and fucking jam out. Yeah.
But when it's your gig and your songs, and it's really hard to have a band and have your vision and have it try to be sounding like you're expecting it to. That's a really rough lifestyle for me. Because
you want it to be right every time.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's hard when you have to. Oh man,
you can't play every instrument, right?
Yeah, so, well, you can, but like you can't live. It's impossible.
So that was trying. Yeah, it was great. We had some great fun successes.
About how long were you known as Tweed?
A few years, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years, and all the time I was playing solo gigs on my own, like just acoustic gigs, traveling around, like just doing singer-songwriter stuff.
Yeah. Any big influences then for you musically? Or was it still kind of country stuff?
Yeah, no. I mean, Tweed was not country at all. I mean, I played a Telecaster, and like all the leads in the songs were really twangy and stuff, but they were rock songs. I mean, not rocking like rock,
right?
But like,
right.
That was the time that like, Sunvolt was around and things like that. So that kind of like, oh wow, you can kind of twang it out, but still, fucking rock it a little bit. And
Wilco was still kind of
Wilco and all that kind of stuff was around, and I also, and I think a lot of those guys too, I also had a pretty big pop influence that I didn't really know. Yeah. That was down in me.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I mean, I grew up in the 80s.
Well, fucking right, you did.
And then
but your dad, was he, because it sounds like he was just blues and kind of like more straightforward.
Yeah, but like, when you started going on your own and buying records and stuff like that and cassettes and, I'd crank out Hendrix and Zeppelin all day. But then, dude, I was a songwriter. If it was a catchy song, like, it didn't really matter to me. I appreciated the song. I could get it. And, I wasn't afraid to like peg, any song as long as I was like, wow, that's a good song.
Yeah, because even like it's Pet Shop Boys. Yeah. It's a great example. Fucking incredible, simple pop hooks. And those dudes don't care. Yeah. They're not pretentious.
And it didn't matter if it was like Erasure on the radio or if it was like, they were doing they were going to get the let out with a fucking triple shot. It was like, it was all good. Yeah. And so I noticed that, like, I was like, God, I got these songs and they kind of have a pop aspect to them. But
did you feel conflicted at all? Because it's like slightly a little bit more mainstream.
Been conflicted a little bit.
Once I stepped onto this planet, I was conflicted.
But it was good, and I learned a lot, a lot about. You learn a lot about yourself,
right?
Writing songs and stuff like that. And
it's a cool thing, and putting yourself out there doing acoustic shows and stuff. I mean, it's pretty bare bones. It's
I found some just the other day. I found some boxes with CDs of like live recordings, and I was like, I didn't even remember writing some of these songs. And
did you like going back and listening to that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of them, I was like, oh God, that's not good. And like there was one song I was like, I was with a friend of mine the other day who's a songwriter out in Los Angeles. He was back in Dallas, and I was like, dude, I found this song, and I was like, I think literally it could still be.
Yeah, it's still good.
It's still good. It could be recorded by somebody better. And I was like, he was like, dude, give it to me and let me bring it out there.
And then then Demi Lovato, she recorded it.
And so, it's good to listen back, but
yeah.
I'm a super on or off.
Yeah.
So when I do something, I'm usually like 100% in, and when I'm not, I'm not. And when I decided to not play music anymore, it was
like not 100%. Not.
In fact, I haven't. I think I've picked up my guitar like 10 times in the last decade.
No kidding. So, when would you say you put your cap on the hook?
I think I was like, maybe like 31.
Yeah.
I'm 42 now, so like maybe like 31, 32.
That's a long time, man. 11 years or so.
Yeah, it was like all through high school until it was a long time.
Yeah.
And by that time I was tired. And
was there like a particular gig or anything that happened, or it just kind of like nicely fizzled out calmly?
It fizzled out. I met my wife, and it wasn't like that was like something that was like, oh, I better go man up and go get a job or something. Right. I mean, she met me when I was a musician. She probably looks at me now like,
where's your edge, John? Like, where did it go?
I fell in love with you when you were rocking it out on stage, and now you're just slinging fucking booze around. So, but
is that a downgrade? I gotta ask myself.
And but I think it just ran its course.
Yeah.
And now I just sometimes I think like maybe when my life slows down a little bit,
might go back to.
I think I got some more things in me, but it'll be on a. I'm not going to be trying to like live the dream.
No, and that's when things happen, right? When you're not trying is when the best things happen to you. It's so strange, especially with music. It's like, oh, I wrote this song because I was mad, and I'm not going to do it again.
But I don't give up, and I don't regret any of it. It was like I had a really rocking time until I was like 32. I mean, I
not
never,
so
I
bad.
never
Most
really
people can't make it to 30. They either overdose or they get like obese, and then they just have to do server jobs.
Yeah.
So you maintained your looks. So that's good.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But it was good.
So what was that step then? So you like things are kind of fizzling out. You are losing your affinity for guitar because it's taken its course. Would you find yourself wanting another career like in business, maybe working with your dad or something? Or
I didn't know. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was still working. I can't remember at the time where I was working, but didn't know what I was gonna do, and I thought to myself, my grandfather had passed away.
Yeah.
On my mom's side, and
you guys close at all?
Yeah.
Ish.
I don't know if anyone's really close with that generation. I mean,
it's
maybe
hard,
a little bit. I mean, my parents and like that generation and my parents' generation were like in that in that 50s vibe where it's like, if it provoked an emotion, you just like you swallow it and sit there.
Yeah. Oh, you repress it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Totally.
It's like, hey, let's don't stir the boat here with emotions.
Right. We're gonna sink this fucking boat. Just stop rocking it, goddammit. Yeah.
So we were close. I mean, we got along great, and but he passed away, and he was really influential on. When I was growing up, we would go over to his house every Sunday and have. Like Sunday lunch.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Was he a cook?
No, I mean my grandmother was. She always cooked like a nice meal on Sunday, and the whole family went over there. And he had a little wine cellar downstairs, and cool. He always had. It was either Burgundy or Bordeaux, and it wasn't really it wasn't really expensive stuff, but it was nice wine. And he collected some French wine, and after he passed away, my uncle actually sold his cellar.
He was allowed to, I hope.
Yeah, right? I guess he was allowed to, and I guess I didn't know or whatever. I didn't speak up, but there was some dregs left over. Like when I went down there was like a few cases left over and stuff, and so I grabbed them. And one was actually, you'll appreciate it. One was about 3 fingers full of old granddad tax stamp.
Oh man!
And I've got some like tax stamp Benedictine bottles. And
you play like you're not into like heavy spirits that much. Like I know you like spirits, but I know that you have a place in your heart for old Granddad and old Taylor.
It's cool. I still got a little bit, I'll take a little nip on it every once in a while just to taste
crazy.
it.
How is it? Takes you back?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good stuff. I don't know what year it's from.
It doesn't even matter though at that point.
Cool stuff. But me and my now wife were living together, and just kind of out of respect, like I didn't know anything about wine, but every time I would open a bottle of that wine out of a cellar, I would just get online and research it, and be like, what am I drinking? Because these were like Burgundy and Bordeaux bottles that didn't mean anything. I didn't know
you decades old, right?
And I didn't know anything about them, and so I just started looking around, and I mean, I drank a lot of wine up till that. I just isn't consumption, like not really caring too much, but I drank,
Was that was that kind of your thing for a while? Like I imagine it's beer during the gigs, but
I mean, as I got older, like I drank, I drank wine like every night. Yeah, it's just like I still do. It's just I love it, and so I started learning about the wines I was drinking a little bit, and I got kind of into it. And one day I just looked at my wife and I was like, I think I'm gonna get in the wine business.
No kidding.
And she was like, yeah, go do it. And I had this like romantic thought that like, I'm gonna be like,
it's gonna be incredibly lucrative.
I'm gonna be in the vineyards, like, like, oh, the grapes are ready for harvest. Let's put them on our backs and carry them in and crush them. Anyways, it was like, as we all do, whether it's music or anything, like you romanticize. And I might not show it on the outside, but I'm definitely a heavy romantic in heart. And I just romanticized about the whole thing. And I didn't even know how to do it. I didn't even know how, like, I was like, how do you get a job in the wine business?
Yeah.
I had no idea. And I knew I didn't want to go like work at a wine shop. That just like wasn't going to be
right. It's not deep enough. It's not romantic.
It wasn't romantic. Yeah. And so I Googled wine importers in Texas. Mm-hmm. And the first place that popped, the first thing that came on was Direct Wine Imports of Texas, which was this little small distributor in Houston. And I was like, I guess I emailed him or something and said, hey, I don't know how clear I was, but I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I want to get into this business, and I'm emailing
help
you.
Me.
Help me.
Yeah.
And randomly he emailed me back and was like, I'm in Dallas next week. Do you want to meet? And I was like, okay. And we met over at Central Market in Dallas, and he handed me this little tiny portfolio and said, here it is. This is what it pays. And you get 2 trucks a week.
Romantic or not, this is what it is.
And I was like, this is not, I was like, where's the G4, to Italy? When are we going to the vineyards?
Yeah.
And anyways, I had to like wake up and figure it out.
Yeah.
Like 100% zero roadmap on
Did
anything.
it feel like, beyond the romanticization of it, did it feel like somehow it was calling you? Sometimes careers are like that. It's like, oh man, I think this is my calling.
It's definitely, I was definitely supposed to be doing it. I mean, I just can't imagine that it was going to be, why I would have chosen to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But
it was something in you, like some kind of just subconscious thing.
Yeah, it was something I had to go figure out and learn about. And
your wife was like, okay, fine. Yeah, all right, when are you going to write more songs?
Yeah. She was like, just go do it. And so I did. I just woke up the next morning and was like, how do I do this? And I don't even know how I did it, but I figured it out. And I think like in 6 months I was his best rep. And
so wait, when did he offer you the job? So you guys meet at Central Market. He's like, here's the portfolio.
He's like, I'll send you a couple of boxes of
your
samples.
Dreams are crushed because it's not a matter of like carrying grapes over your back in Venice or something. And so you sleep and you get really reasonable about it, and you wake up and like, no, I'm gonna do this. And so how far after, or how long after that were you like actually part of the group selling wine?
Yeah, like the next day.
No kidding. That's incredible.
Like he sent me a a bunch of samples and was like, go for it. And I like, much like going and like having a gig, like you walk into a wine shop and you're like, hi,
you got to perform.
I'm John.
Yeah.
This is my portfolio. I work for this company. Do you maybe want to taste some wine? And, half of them were total assholes to me.
Of course.
And, you just go home beat down and you think to yourself like, wow, this is not going well.
Yeah.
And then I was like, where are people buying the most wine? That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Like I got to figure this out.
Where people are going to be at least a little bit more accepting and like open to it.
And that was big retail.
Yeah.
Like major grocery and stuff like Central Market and Whole Foods type thing. And so I just went and sunk my teeth into selling to those big stores where they could buy a lot of wine.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I just started selling to those places, and it was brutal. I mean, the driver would leave Houston at 1 a.m. and meet me at some point in Dallas at like 6 a.m. And then I would drive the van and go do all the deliveries in Dallas, all over Dallas, Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And then by 5 or 6 o'clock that day, he would wake up and drive back to Houston. And I did that twice a week.
Crazy.
And it was I was like, this is more tiring than being a musician.
But that is a very valuable lesson.
It was in my opinion, everyone should have to go through that
through the ranks,
super early on of distribution. It's just fucking brutal.
What's different now in terms not necessarily for you, but like distribution there? It's like pretty analog. People are running vans. You're driving a van, and you're a sales guy. Is it different at all now?
Some days no. Some days no.
Yeah, I think a couple times I'm like, I'm driving the truck up.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think people sometimes forget that in this business, on this side of the business specifically, and not to discount anyone else's side.
Sure.
People think distributors, we have this stuff in our warehouse that we've gotten for free, and we just go out and show it to you, and it magically appears, and they forget that we have this whole other business that's acquiring the product and paying for it and warehousing it and taking orders and shipping it. Like, it's called distribution.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. Like, you order it, you get it, you import it, or ultimately you bring it in, you store it. Sometimes it's got to be refrigerated and like a climate controlled, and then you got to get it out to people.
And then you got to get it there, and you got to it's a vigorous situation.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's got their hardships in their business, but it's a lot. It's a lot to get something from A to B, all the way there.
Because it's got to physically go from A to B.
It's got to physically get there.
That's
and it
the worst part of
it. Magically appear.
But you know what? That's one of the true values of booze or food even, right? Like, I always consider it the last vestige of culture and art, is that music can be consumed in a different way now. You can kind of just download it. No one's got to like transfer it to you. Mm-hmm. Movies, the same kind of thing. You can just buy it downstairs on the TV. But a bottle of wine or a bottle of spirit, you have to get it. There is like this manpower that is behind getting it to you. And there's something to really be revered about that.
Yeah, there's no other way to do it.
No other way. And you got to appreciate it. Like, because it's not only is it made somewhere, but often somewhere far from here, but somehow that was made there, cultivated, bottled, capped, shipped, ran through customs, ended up in your hands, and then it's in my hands. Yeah. I mean, that's it's a profound thought to think of how far a bottle can travel.
It's insane. And it's actually got to the point where like I'm convinced that like too many people don't understand that.
Yeah.
And I think if they understood that, maybe they just appreciate the whole system as a whole a little bit. And so, I mean, like random timing, I got asked to do like this series deal at at San Antonio cocktail
you're gonna
conference
do something
coming up, and this guy said, "Hey, can you? 5 people are gonna do 20 minutes each on just a specific subject, and I'm gonna show from conception of bottle, all the way to what it takes. You'll understand all this.
Sure.
From cap, everything,
dude, caps.
TTB, all the way to importation, every cost, every single, it's probably going to be an Excel or a PowerPoint of,
it'd have to be
of 400 pages of each single thing that has to happen.
Right.
But all the way till it gets to the back bar. And it's a little insane.
Any particular kind of spirit or just whatever?
Yeah, I'm going to take two.
Yeah.
I'm going to take one. I think I'm going to, one's going to be a cognac and one's going to be like from the islands.
Yeah.
Like a rum.
Which is totally, when you talk about paying customs, bringing it in, storing it.
And I think I'm going to try to like make it really simple and quick and painless. But I think at the end, I think people will be like, wow, I didn't know, know, that it takes that to do it.
Man, so. I'm waiting for that graph. So there's two ways to look at it. I always think about like the LDI stuff, these whiskeys where you can buy in bulk and stuff. And then I imagine a diagram of a bottle. The bottle is the graph. And then you have various levels within the graph that indicate like this is labor, this is bottling, this is taxes, this is shipping. That's like, and that's how the 100% of all of your cost is the top of the bottle. You know, a lot of people don't realize like how expensive. So rum, especially when you bring it in, cognac even more so. But like whiskey is a little bit different. You can source it within the United States and stuff. But are you excited to present again at San Antonio?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna kind of lay back a little bit. We've done a bunch of stuff in the last few years there, and I'm doing a couple of things. But when I got asked to do that, and they were like, "You can do whatever you want," and I was like, "You know what? You only got 15 or 20 minutes. I'm gonna debunk that part of it for everybody and or anyone that comes, and just kind of just show them like what it takes to actually get it here."
It's kind of performing again too, right? Being in front of the classroom in a sense. I mean,
that's good. I think that's maybe what. I've tried in this career to spend a lot of time educating because I've been lucky enough to have people educate me.
Yeah.
And I think if I can pass on, a 2% of anything that they've passed on to me, so it is like that. I mean, when we put on seminars or educationals or something, and what happens the night before or the week before, who's going to show up? Are people going to come?
Or is my band going to show up?
Yeah. Do I have my shit together?
Yeah.
Like, am I
prepared? Is my throat okay? Am I prepared to?
But am I literally prepared to discuss this topic in front of an audience? And like, I love that feeling.
It's the same thing, man. Are my chops good enough? Do I know the song? Do I remember the lyrics?
And it puts you in the pressure to practice. And the practice in this arena is studying and learning from people who influence you and knowing your shit by the time.
Well, what's I find like particularly interesting about you is that you seem so relaxed about the way that you deliver knowledge and the talk about spirits and stuff. It's almost like it feels like the kind of guy that doesn't prepare at all. But that's not true, is it? You're very prepared for this stuff.
Oh, well, I feel like I do. I don't know what it is compared to others.
Yeah.
But I feel like I put in a lot of time to understand.
Yeah. And, I think so. It's funny because your delivery is like totally sweet and smooth, right? But I can tell that you put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah, I'm glad it comes off that way. Yeah. I'll take that as a compliment. Cause,
maybe I'm delusional though, John.
Yeah, maybe
don't
everyone else is
me.
like, this guy doesn't know shit. But like, and I don't ever want to come off like that I or we know more than someone else.
Right.
It's just like, I go somewhere and maybe I go to Jerez and I engulf myself in sherry or something.
Yeah.
It's not that like, well, I'm going to go back and educate everybody. It's like, no, I just want to share what I learned.
It's
like,
so fun. It's like, look at this.
Yeah, like this is incredible. And if you know this and you know more than me, tell me.
Yeah.
Like why we're doing this. But if you don't know anything, I just found something. Like I just want to show you. And I hope it's worth your time, and so I try to spend time going places, engulfing myself in it. And
you're inclusive. That's what I call it versus exclusive, right? So like you have the knowledge, you want to share, you want to create a discussion around it. And so, and I want to touch on this point real quick before we get back to like how you transition from wine into spirits. But so talking about discussion and talking about sharing and talking about being on a playing field and like really, really trying to learn and be inclusive about spirits and all the methods of production, all this shit. So David Suro, and I really want to talk about this. So David Suro, who obviously does Siembra Azul, does Siembra Metal. Those labels, man, they are full disclosure. They're granular. To some people, they may be even too academic, which is not a problem. If you want the level of detail, good, you get it. And if you don't, you'll still buy it, but you don't even give a shit, right? Mm-hmm. So he kind of posed this philosophical question, right, about the label that he's putting out with Siembra Metal or Azul, either way. Mm-hmm. Is it too much, right? He started this conversation, said, all the stuff I'm putting on this label, will consumers even care? So when you think about like education, there's 2 points really. So one, how do you feel about putting it all out there? Because he seems like a guy that's excited to share. He's not trying to be esoteric. He's not trying to, make people feel bad about what they don't know. Sure. I mean, how do you feel about what he's doing with those labels?
I think.
Yes, it's a pretty specific question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess like I don't want to sound like generic and be like, and I don't want to. I think transparency is a great thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Do I care that every producer puts everything on their bottle? No, I don't care.
But you don't see. Rather, do you see it as a fault?
No, I don't. And I think no one's asked them to in the past. So like, why would they?
Yeah.
It's just like more work for them, and maybe they just don't feel like they need to. It's never been a necessity or a no one's called them out to do that.
The public's not clamoring for more detail.
I saw that, and when David put that on there, I messaged him and I said, "Hey, why not, do it because you want to.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Right. Don't care."
And that was in the discussion. I was like, David, if you want to do this, do it.
Yeah.
Be proud of it, but don't worry about everyone else doing it.
Right.
And I think he agreed with that. And it's great. It's a great tool for me to go in and talk to a consumer or an establishment about his products.
Yeah.
I have other things in my portfolio that are as transparent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe not in such detail.
Right. But Vago is pretty close.
Yeah, Vago's super close. And but it's like, hey, it's great. It's on there. And if someone's interested and David's willing to do it,
right,
perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone dogs him from that, is just ridiculous.
Right. It doesn't alienate anybody.
It doesn't alienate anyone. And he's not trying to be a pompous guy.
He's a very warm guy, wants to share, right?
Yeah, but he is that guy, what he has done to me in knowing him and in this industry, and there's days where I'm like, my personality is very, like I said earlier, hot and cold.
Right.
I could literally walk out of this room after me and you are done.
Yeah.
Quit my job.
Yeah.
And go do something else, and I'll never look back.
Right.
Like,
you gotta admire that. Though.
I don't know if it's.
I've got to admire.
Well,
that.
It's just my brain works very different on that. I'm a very big picture maybe, and this is all small beans in my big picture.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, like, what keeps me going in this industry, and kind of like, on those days that you're like having to walk through the mud a little bit.
Oh yeah.
It's guys like David that make me get up in the morning.
I'm gonna go as far as to say, like, he's like a wonderful father figure for us.
Yeah, he's
not directly, not a replacement, but like, he's older, he's intelligent, he's articulate, he's compassionate, and there's no reason that I would ever think that things he would do with his label or his product would be of any ill-conceived area, right?
The guy's he's a
sweetheart.
He's a total angel.
Right. So here's the other part of it, and I won't even name names, but I'll call this person the antiquated prick. And I seldom get embroiled in an argument on Facebook, which is like fucking fighting over the last pea and the stir fry, right? Like, it's so insignificant, right?
Right.
But for some reason, this particular person, because this goes back to how you feel about education, right? You get back from learning about sherry, you're like, holy shit, sherry is an amazing thing. It's incredibly delicious. Let's all talk about it. Let's like fucking riff on sherry, right? But then there's some people like, well, John, actually, blah, 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 blah. This is the real thing about sherry. And how do you feel about like those people in the end? Because I think it comes from the old guard. That's how I call it, right? How do you feel about people like coming in and be like, well, actually, consumers don't give a shit, and I know everything about the industry, and I'm not willing to budge or help anybody else learn? Like, well, what do you think about that kind of?
They're too old to be on Facebook. First and foremost.
Yeah.
I think that I know who you're talking about.
You know, and I'll someday I'll.
Let's just put it this way. I used to do a ton on Facebook. I actually took it off my phone recently because it was a little much. It's becoming a little much for me. But back when I was a little more mouthy than maybe I am these days on there. I mean, he unfriended me. Let's put it that way.
Amazing.
And when I asked, I did a tequila tasting at the San Antonio Cocktail Conference 2 years ago, where we tasted.
Was he there?
No.
Oh, yeah.
But we tasted old versus new bottles.
Sure.
And it was. I'd like to think that it was quite a tasting. I mean, we were opening, bottles from the 80s and 70s versus new production and blind tasting with people, and it was great. And I reached out to that individual and said, I found this bottle, which was a fucking unicorn bottle that I found in the wild, by the way. And I said, can you help me date this and tell me a little bit about it?
What did he say?
He's just basically like, don't waste my time. And I was just like, okay, thanks. I'm just trying to help out here.
This fucking dude, man.
So I threw in the towel on that one. Yeah. And you know what? I have no time for that anymore.
Right. And the cool thing is that I feel like, and I'm not going to consider myself a part of this, but like I consider you, I consider Judah, I consider David, fucking Houston, like all the guys. Like there's so many great people doing amazing things to bring people into the conversation. Like William, right? William Scanlon, the Rey Campero and the Real Minero stuff. He's a guy. He's just a guy. And he's like, let's fucking talk about Mezcal because it's an amazing thing. And so you got these new people that are like really, really excited to talk about it. Really, really open and interested and just accessible. And it contrasts the old guard, man.
Yeah.
Because these old guys are stuffy and...
I think it's a natural thing.
I think so too. They're threatened, aren't they?
No,
I suspect that
this might sound bad, but they're not in the game anymore. They had their day.
Right.
They had their day, and they did some incredible things. Some of them, and that gentleman included was.
Yes.
I mean, he's a legend in what he got accomplished.
Right.
But he's not. He hasn't done anything for years.
Yeah.
20 years or something. So now he's just mouthing off.
It's like Chumbawamba. Yeah. Fucking huge one hit, right? Global hit. Everybody knows the song. What are they doing now? Yeah. And the problem is, or rather, the real benefit is like you chip away and you do a little bit of brilliant stuff every time, and then you build this long career. And I think that's what David Suro's doing.
Yeah. Look, David. Look, when I started putting together a spirits portfolio, I was completely adamant that there would never be a tequila in this portfolio.
Why is that?
I thought it was a disastrous category that, much like maybe, let's say like the vodka category.
Sure.
When I was doing a lot of just like on the street research and going into stores and stuff, I was like, wow, the two biggest shelves are vodka and tequila, and they're completely overloaded.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to stay away from those categories and concentrate on other things.
Yeah.
And then I tasted Siembra Azul.
It's like, damn it.
and so I literally tell David all the time when we're together, I'm like, you just ruined me. Yeah. And now literally half my portfolio and probably, half our sales are agave based spirits.
Yeah.
And
it seems like you're a pioneer. You're an agave guy now.
I definitely got hooked on it. And I definitely love having my fingers in a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And unlike maybe music or something where my brain is very hot and cold and I'm either on or off.
Yeah.
For some reason in this industry, I'm able to be satisfied.
It is actually striking to me because it's one thing if you would just consider that like you're part of a distributor, right? So it's like one thing, but maybe because there's so many different genres of spirits that it makes it you can never get bored with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, this industry has provided me this, I guess I don't know how I can say it, like the ability to have interest in a bunch of things, and that's okay. Like no one's saying, John, you shouldn't be out like pushing, Vermouth this week. Like, you can't just go sell Mezcal this week. Like, I can wake up and whatever I need to go do, and I can touch a bunch of different categories and educate myself and learn, and I'm not just pigeonholed.
Yeah.
Which is very against the way my brain works.
Really?
And so there's something to it that's good.
There's got to be something to it. Well, so then when did that transition occur then between doing wine, which was exclusively wine, and shifting to spirits?
So I stayed like 3 years with that first distributor out of Houston. I was living in Dallas, but they were based out of Houston.
They need someone in Dallas, right?
Yeah. And I met kind of a guy who was working for a company called Virtuoso Selections at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Me and him, he kind of noticed that in the big, back in those days, Central Market, there was like 4 stores in Dallas. It was kind of the Wild West. The stores could individually buy anything they wanted.
Oh, wow.
Nowadays, it's like all kind of
corporatized, right?
Corporatized a little bit. But back then, it was the Wild West, and you could go in there and, I mean, I could drop, 6 pallets on a Tuesday.
No shit.
And me and him were like the guys that got there like, way early, like 6 a.m. before anyone else got there to kind of like survey and see what we could get done before the buyer got there.
You knew when to be there.
Yeah, of course. And it was always me and him, so I think it was this like friendly competition going on. And one day he came up to me and was like, "Hey, let's just do this together." And he said, "Why don't you come work for us?" And it was a little bit of a raise and an opportunity to go to work more. And me and him kind of went out, and I was able to just me and him just kind of crush that wine side of that business. And
did you want to get further into wine? I mean, it was just like, well, whatever. Or were you?
No, I was engulfed in wine. Completely engulfed in wine. But I also realized that it wasn't the romance that I thought. It was, we got to move some boxes. We got to get some sales.
It's logistics to it, yeah.
So, you got to get that part of the business done so you can get on a plane and go to Argentina or Italy. But you got to go get the work done first. And so I was very motivated to get up and get cracking and get business going.
So it was an okay balance for you that you had to like put in the backbreaking work, because at the end of the day, and maybe quarterly or whatever, you get to experience the romantic side of it.
The better you did, the perks of the lifestyle grew. Yeah. Right?
So it makes sense then. Like
totally
you can make it romantic if you want to, if you're willing to put in the work.
But it was some crummy work some days.
Sure.
So anyways, I spent, I don't know, 5 years at Virtuoso on the wine side, and it provided me, I never had a position there. I was never a rep in the traditional sense. I was never a commissioned rep. I was always used as a, they allowed me to go garner business and gain business and pass it off to other reps. And
cool.
I had this really good thing going there, and I've still to this day, after 12 years of being in this business, I'd never had just a commission-based rep job. I always had some weird specialized job that I dreamt up that I was able to go execute, and they trusted me to go do it. So I think I duped everyone for a long time. But I was producing, right? Which was all that mattered.
And you managed to accumulate some wonderful brands in your tenure, if you will, at Virtuoso. I mean,
sure.
I don't know this, right? And so maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like you really introduced Fago and brought it to the world.
Well, almost getting there.
Yeah.
basically, I don't know what year this was, but I do know that Anvil was about to open, which was kind of going to be like,
monumental in Houston.
A little bit of monumental, a little bit, monumental in the cocktail world. In Texas, I think in Austin this was before me, so I don't know the timelines, but I think like maybe Eastside Showroom was open here.
Right. Pesce probably.
I don't know if yet. I know Bill Norris was maybe at Fino and a couple of things, but Bobby and those guys were about to open Anvil, and they had done their due diligence in a big way on things they needed to execute the cocktails that they wanted to make.
Right.
And those things weren't available in Texas yet. Not everything. And they had reached out through who's now one of our partners at Victory, William Mesnerich, and a little bit of myself saying, hey, can y'all help get some of these products into Texas?
Yeah.
And we were wine guys, and William, I think, contacted Eric Seed at House All Pens and said, hey, we got some bars here that needs your stuff. And Virtuoso brought these, this huge portfolio and of all this geeky, allspice dram, and Zurban Stone Pine Liqueur, all this stuff in there. And we let them kind of just pick at it, but we were out selling wine, right?
Yeah.
And then one day, I got kind of bored one day, and I just pulled some samples. I think I grabbed like Heyman's Old Tom and some bottles of Dolan and a few other things, and I just decided to like put a bag over my shoulder and go out for like a week.
Yeah. To Houston?
No, I was in Dallas.
Oh, okay.
And people were just like, ship it. Get it into my fucking bar.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Why did people care all of a sudden?
Yeah, like what's going on in the world? Like these geeky spirits and vermouth and all this stuff. And I did that for a while, and I started watching the sales, and I went back down to the owner of the company, and I was like, let me open up a spirits division. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I know some people, and give me a shot.
Yeah.
She thought about it for a couple of weeks, and she called, and she's like, okay, do it. So I called Eric Seed, and I was like, what else do I need?
Yeah.
And so he introduced me to like Ed Hamilton, and then Ed Hamilton introduced me to this guy, and I was able to very luckily acquire some things that were much needed and unbeknownst to me in classic cocktails that weren't available. And so in order to make that drink, you had to have these things, whether it was like creme de violette or velvet falernum or things like that. And
was anybody even doing this at that point too, or were you the guy that kind of brought it in?
Well, we had it, and no one had it here. And but the cocktail scene hadn't gotten to Texas yet. But I think Bill and Chauncey and Bobby and all those guys knew what was going on in New York and San Francisco, where people were using this stuff, and they were like, we got to get this stuff here. And I remember reading an article that Bobby was talking about the other day about how getting Carpano here was a big deal. And so all these things, we started getting all these things here, like Lemon Heart 151 and all these like historical classic things and
cult following.
Super cult things. But these things these guys needed to make, I didn't know these cocktails, but I knew that like these things had to be in those drinks, right?
Yeah.
So I just started building on that and kind of ran with it, and it was good. It was a good couple of years at Virtuoso. I kind of had free reign to build this portfolio out. At that time I had tasted Siembra Azul. I just basically shit the bed when I tasted it. And it was with another distributor. I did whatever I could. I'm not really a snake like that where I'm like I like to take things, but I was like, I gotta have this. They were looking for a new distributor at the time. I was like, just give me a shot. David moved over. I found out that Tapatio was going to come to the U.S.
I remember that, yeah.
And immediately called my good friend Wyatt Peabody and said, help me
land this, yeah.
And he made a phone call real quick and was able to acquire that. And so I got some what I consider either historical or things that had a high relevance.
Yeah.
And
well, it's weird because you're like the Berry Gordy of spirits. right? You knew the talent, and you picked exactly the right spirits for exactly the right areas, right? It's like you bring Vago in, you bring Dolan in, which is just, it's fucking ubiquitous now.
Well, William Mesnerich, who's one of our partners at Victory, was definitely responsible about getting household pens here.
Yeah.
It's just none of us did anything with it, but I definitely went out and was like, hey, this is here, and started championing those things. And the Vago deal was just like the feel good thing of it's something I'll think about when I retire.
Yeah.
When Judah walked into my office in Austin, and he had a t-shirt and a brand new pair of boots and jeans, and that was it.
Yeah,
literally. Yeah. And he had some samples, and he was going to make another decision, and I had to talk him out of it.
Yeah.
And I was completely floored with what he had in those bottles. And
it's insanely amazing stuff.
After Judah and I agreed to work together, I said, hey, can I try to help in other places? And I called Nicholas Palazzi in New York, and I called some other people around the country, and it seemed like overnight everyone was stoked. And
I mean, everybody wants to sign him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like the hype's building up, but the thing is that Vago is an inspiration to me. I mean, I don't think that we would have at Genius done half of the things we did, even if it's not agave, if it hadn't been for what Judah did. Because he's an accessible guy, he's friendly, he's personable, and he just like, this is an amazing thing. I'm passionate about it. I'm going to share it with everybody. Yeah. I mean, it's an inspirational story.
It really is. And I remember tasting with him. It was the Mexicano that sold it to me, and it was the first time that I sat down with somebody and had to make a decision. A decision that I had made in my head and had to figure out, but it was the first time I knew that I could trust my palate.
Yeah.
And that was a really eye-opening situation for me, where I was like, after 12 years of tasting wine and tasting spirits and going places and listening to other people, that was my time to make my own decision.
Yeah.
And it taught me that maybe after that amount of time, I can trust my palate a little bit. And
kind of a rite of passage in a way, right?
It was for me personally. It was something that I really thought about a lot after. Like, you never know when you can say to yourself, like, do I trust myself on this? And
it's hard. It's
really hard.
Totally hard.
And that was something that I did, and it's been a great thing.
Yeah, I think, man, I can't think. I remember I cold called, if you will, Bill Norris in the street one time. I saw him at a Hendrix event, and I didn't know Bill, and I so looking forward to chatting with him on the show, but he didn't know me. I didn't know him. I just knew of his work, and we talked, and he was so open. And the thing is, like, from the first couple of minutes that I was talking to Bill, like, he's like, yeah, this guy John Garrett, you gotta talk to him. Yeah, it was insane. Like, you were on the hook. You were on the hook from very first couple of minutes. And I remember we met, and we talked gin, and you tried the gin and stuff. And I just knew that you would be a guy that at least I'd have to fucking run stuff by. I'd always want to get your feedback on ideas.
Well, that's nice, man. I will say, I've ridden a bunch of coattails, and I've had a lot of people who are super respected in the industry.
Yeah.
Kind of hold my hand and introduce me. I mean, I was with Eric Seed, who owns Household Pens, the first time I met Bill Norris.
Oh, really?
And Bill might not have accepted me as someone he would want to talk to a second time if maybe I wasn't with Eric.
It's so weird how that works, right?
And it's, I'm super fortunate that these people have helped me and introduced me to people in maybe a way that I don't know if I didn't have to work. I don't know. It's been nice.
Yeah,
like, they've been
it's been really good. There's something about the industry in that respect in which there is an implicit respect. There's an implicit fondness of each other, and we just want to learn from each other. I can't really. It's almost like it is family. It's so strange, right? Like, even though Jude and I, we're not related, he's fucking like a foot taller than me. Yeah. He's a surfer, he's from Colorado. Like, still going down to Oaxaca, spending an afternoon with he and his family.
Sure.
It just felt like kindred spirits, So, but let's take a moment here to describe the bottle that you picked. Every time we pick a bottle, man, I figured, I was almost sure you're going to pick that Cenizo that we have downstairs, that Siempre Metal Cenizo. But you picked a Panamanian rum, is that right? That is 40, you said 47%?
Yeah, this is something that a friend of mine,
Mr. Jake
Lustig,
also a wonderful dude that I met through you. Yeah,
he's killer, dude. I mean, you want to talk about someone who has such a rich history, especially in agave spirits.
Yeah.
He's branched out and done some other cool projects, and he sent me this bottle the other day. It's from Panama. It's 47%.
Yeah.
It's a true 9-year.
True 9-year rum. Wonderful color on it.
It's beautiful, and maybe it doesn't show in the market as much, but I'm definitely a rum guy.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of rum, and I don't know if people realize the rums we have in the portfolio, but it's something that I think if someone sat down and looked at my portfolio, they would say, wow, you have a lot of rum.
Right. You have all the Hamilton stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or some of it, at least.
All of Ed's stuff, and Nissan and LaFavorite and Smith and Cross and all that kind of stuff.
Smith and Cross.
And it, it's a category that I think everyone's been waiting for it to have its day in the sun, and it kind of gets cloudy a little bit every time we think it's going to happen. But it's such, as all these spirits go up in price, and whiskey and all that mess that's going on, and agave prices up and down and everything, like, I think sometimes people forget how cost effective like really good rum can be.
Is.
This is a 9-year foolproof rum.
And you've been sipping it. What do you think? I'm enamored as shit with it, man.
I love it.
It is so good.
But it's gonna be like, what? I'm gonna sell this for like $24.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's it.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like, rum is, I don't know. I mean, if your bar, I've never worked at a bar in my entire life, so I do not tell people how to run their business. But my thought is that why everything's expensive and people are putting expensive things in cocktails, unless I'm crazy, it seems to me like rum is a great way to make some margin up on your cocktails.
Man, if that's only 20, I mean, I might just distract you and just steal that bottle and shove it down my shirt. It's a brilliant bottle, man.
So there's some categories that might not be get me to early retirement, but things that I'm pretty enamored with, and rum's something I've definitely love.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes music's a great analogy, and you kind of understand that coming up through the ranks, With music, it's like your only chance to really be lucrative and like fiscally successful, if you will, right? Because I never play, and I get the sense you never did either. But like music, you don't play it because you want to make money. You want to play it because you can express yourself, have some creative freedom, have a good social life. You're out there performing. It's kind of ego massaging, all these kinds of things. But like, you're just fighting the fight and doing the same thing here, where you're just expressing and you're sharing these amazingly honest products. But for you as a distributor, there's not a lot of money in it, and there's not a lot of margins for you. I mean, where do you go? Where do you settle down in 15 years? How do you change this or bring it to another level?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's tough. I mean, I don't know a lot of people in this industry, definitely on the distribution side, that are like crushing it financially.
Yeah.
Can you make a good living? Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Will you feel good doing it? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, can you be like, wow, I'm gonna get the golden egg here? And I'm not talking about like, tons of money, but
right.
This industry for me is, it's pretty personal. I want to champion things that I believe in and people that I know,
yeah,
and that I can impact. I know some of these producers personally. I know their children. I know these importers. I know their families.
Yeah.
I know that how I react daily impacts their life, and and vice versa. And so that makes me get up in the morning and go to work, and it feels great. But the beauty of this business is that if you play your cards right, and this is my hopes, and I've gotten to dabble in this some, it's a really great lifestyle.
Yeah. And
you might not be making, crushingly amazing money, but I think I went to Mexico 6 or 7 times last year,
and you had amazing spirits that didn't cost you anything either, right?
And I just got back from Spain and southern France, and that if I can get to the point where I can provide that lifestyle for myself and include my family in it, that's worth it. Doesn't the money doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and it's funny because you are touring. You're a touring musician if you think about it.
Yeah, I really. I mean, I tell people all the time, suppliers that I deal with and importers and stuff. When I call them or they call me, they always say, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
And I'm typically in my car
because you're a jet setter. But they more mean like which continent are you?
Well,
on,
no,
right?
I mean they know I'm in my car somewhere most likely if it's just normal work day, and it's like, and I usually bug them because I've got a 3-hour drive from Austin to Dallas or Houston or something. But I mean, if I tell people all the time as a joke. I mean, I should have been a trucker. I'm fucking great at driving.
Yeah.
A lot.
Is there anything? What do you listen? You mentioned like the modern music kind of doesn't get your goat much, but
I listen to some music. I've been listening to all these lately.
Yeah, well,
I listened to 2
I'm
on the way here
a little
today.
bit. Yeah. Which ones did you listen to?
Who did I listen? I listened to Jessica Sanders, which was really cool.
Amazing story. Yeah.
And oh my gosh, who was the other one? I listened to like half of Travis, and then I had to get out of the car.
Tober was
and I think I got a few more to do, but I've listened to a lot of.
Yeah, which is so cool, man. I really appreciate that.
It's great. Yeah. What I like about it is, it hasn't been a bunch of people just talking about their business and selling things. It's just kind of a lifestyle thing,
dude. Yeah, the one thing, and I was talking to somebody about this that actually will be on the show next week, but. We have this perceived notion, and it's almost like a transactional relationship that we have with each other. Not you and I necessarily, because we've known each other at least a couple years now, which is really good. I'm really thankful for that. But like, as a person sitting at a bar and then a bartender kind of sharing, it's very transactional, and you only get one layer into somebody. And the fact is, like, there are some fucking incredible personalities around us, man. And you never even get to know what they've went through, and just to have these conversations with people and stuff, not only is it cool and just amazingly therapeutic to just sit and have a nice spirit, because we're not getting fucking tanked. We're just like sipping and enjoying it, There's something about that I feel like brings us all closer. I hope so, anyway,
Well,
might be naive,
next time I run into one of these people, on the street or something, I'm going to say hi and know a little bit more about them than I do.
Feel closer, right?
It's cool.
It is so cool, man.
It's cool.
I've really enjoyed it, and I don't think we would have been on the same path if I couldn't bounce stuff off of you and do sanity checks with you, John. Honestly, I've been in and out of multiple projects, whether it's another gin or whether it's Sotol. In a sense, you've been a really, really good grounding body for me, and it's helped me get clear and understand what I needed to do next and which products to do, man. So I really appreciate that, and I knew we both were guitarists.
There's a mentality.
There's totally a mentality.
You kind of see someone walk down the street and you give them the stink eye a little bit, and you're like, yeah.
But luckily, I don't feel threatened because I was always playing like disjointed math rock.
It's you definitely. It's funny how many people come from music into this industry.
Yeah.
It's really kind of bizarre, actually.
It is. And that's the thing that's almost like the underlying theme to it all is like, no, we're all just from art and we come into this industry,
Yeah. I think music taught me to be in this business, you have to be. I mean, I don't know what it is like on the other sides of this business, but in my side of the business, you have to be a self-goer. I mean, you have to. Yeah. No one's gonna hand it to you. You got to go do it yourself. So music, no one handed me a guitar and said, "Here, you can play now."
Right. So,
in this business, you have to wake up and design and figure out how you're going to get this figured out, because no one's going to hand it to you. So music provided me with that ability to at least wake up and be a self-starter every day.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
It's an amazing tool, and it bonds so much of us together, man.
Yeah.
So I thank you for sharing the rum, and thank Jake for sending it to you. And it's been a good time. It's been just a pleasure getting to know you, and thanks so much for sitting down and chatting with me. Finally, right?
Awesome.
Like
it's been a while.
Weeks now, man. So
we made it.
John. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Well, there we have it, everybody. What'd you guys think to hear about John's lush career in guitar playing in Austin and being a songwriter? He gave songwriting up because wine called to him. Pretty interesting story, but not so uncommon. We play music for a long time, some of us, and sometimes it takes us down the right path. You think about like Jeff Boley touring for so long, still chipping away at it. Think about John giving up songwriting to pursue something maybe more rewarding in wine and spirits, and I don't know. And I am just a feeble podcast host. Someday that's going to go on my LinkedIn, but I'm not quite ready for that. The main thing that I think that's important, and you probably got this from the conversation with John and I, but it takes people like him to elevate the conversation and really reveal honesty and truth in production, because this industry, not to mention production and distribution, it's just a big shit show. Everybody diving in for the cash. And that will create a lot of people doing things for the wrong reasons. A lot of people that will compromise their artistic values and really just sell themselves short. But John and I agree on, if nothing else, that spirits production is an art, and we should treat it as such. So thanks again for listening to Show to V with Mike G, and please keep dancing.